Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. Welcome back. Dr. Jaws here, and tonight we are going to review the Caribbean Rough Shark, which is really cool. It's going to be our second Rough Shark ever, and it's really cool because this is a pretty rare group of sharks. This is the family Oxynotidae. Hey, Howard, good evening. Good evening to you, too. Welcome back. Good to see you. Thank you so much for your awesome piece of art. This is actually probably one of my favorites of the new year so far. Like, this is of your 2024 pieces. This one is actually one of my favorites. This is a beautiful drawing of the Caribbean rough shark, Oxynotus caribbaeus. So there's not much known about this species, but we have seen it. Fortunately, we have some footage of it, and we have seen it like live. Like as far as like video clips and like photographs. But it's a pretty rare shark, and not much is really known about it. But I really love like how you capture just that unique color palette, like that unique coloration pattern of just like the dark brown against like the very like nice light beige cream color. This shark has like these nice dark bars juxtaposed with the cream color. It has those characteristic enormous dorsal fins. Proportionate to its, or relative to its body size, that's actually probably the largest fins proportion to body size of any shark, arguably. Probably second to hammerhead sharks. Hammerheads typically have pretty high dorsal fins as well. What I really love, oh hey, I think that's Quackers, welcome back. Howdy to you too, welcome back. What I really love is that for rough sharks, they have a very unique dorsal fin shape too. Aside from the fins being huge, the spine, like the dorsal fin spine, it kind of like almost is like, as far as like the skeleton goes, or like structurally, it has like kind of like a bit of an independence from the actual fin. So it's like the spine almost has its own like pretty firm triangular base, and then you have the fin almost like launching out of it. It's hard to kind of explain, but it's kind of a unique feature because I feel like for most sharks and squaliforms that do have like the spines, they seem to be pretty flush with the general fin shape and kind of like curved with the fin. And then for rough sharks, it's true, but there's like a slight angle as far as like the spines go, and the spine is like really high on the body. So like what's really cool is that other dogfish or other kinds of squaliforms, the spine is like really like kind of meeting like the back. So it's kind of like at the base of the pectoral fin, or sorry, the dorsal fin. But for rough sharks, the spine is really high up, and it's like at the midpoint of the dorsal fin. So it's pretty cool. So, oh, Quackers, I'm so sorry. I just saw your comment. Man, oh, that's the worst. I'm so sorry. Like, I saw a comment on food poisoning. I had that like when I was in college. There was one day in like the calf where I think they just didn't like replace the like coffee cream, and like that's the only time it's ever happened to me. But it's just like it is the worst. So I hope you're feeling better. I'm glad you're back. It's glad to have you, or it's good to see you again. So I hope your weekend was better otherwise, aside from the food poisoning. So hope you had a good weekend too, Howard. It's funny. It's like it feels. This is gonna be a cool shark to do tonight because for me it kind of feels like a Monday. I'm pretty sleepy, but like I'll start to kind of wake up as I usually do, like as we do the streams together and as we go through sharks together. So I have Mist music on in the background, which is kind of cool. I don't know if you guys have ever played Mist or have maybe even heard of Mist. I haven't heard of it until recently, but it's like this really. It's kind of, I think it was like an early 90s like puzzle game, and it's supposed to be like really hard, and it's supposed to be like at the time like groundbreaking graphics, and they have like Myst 2 and Myst 3, like all these different names and stuff, but apparently it's a pretty cool game, and I never heard of it until like this I think actually like within the last year. So, but it's got some cool music. Got some cool vibes. I thought these would be good rough shark vibes, so have that on the background. And before we dive in, got a cool update. Oh hey Howard, I just saw your comment. Nice. Where'd you go bike riding? Yeah, like I'm not. So it's funny. I'm not much of a I think I watch Let's Plays or like listen to video game music more than I game. I just saw a comment you're not a gamer. Like I'm not really a gamer either. I just like kind of like the music or like Let's Plays. The only thing I really do just like in depth is Pokemon. Like full disclosure, which kind of fits. I feel like there's a weird intersection between like biology people and Pokemon. It's I don't know, especially like '90s kids and Pokemon like and biology. There's something there. So, but other than that, like I don't really game as much, but I do kind of like watch a lot of Let's Plays and like love the music. Just like comment, just locally, it was too cold for ride along. Yeah, yeah. So I just saw a comment. I think I think the western coast of the continent is getting a huge storm, or like this week. So this is gonna be interesting. It's pretty cold here as well. So this is the coldest water temperature in the Chesapeake Bay is February. Kind of makes February like my least favorite month. Like as far as just like, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but like the biodiversity of fish in the bay, it's at its lowest point right now, and we have about 30 species. But in the summer, it explodes to 230, which is pretty wild. So it's a very seasonal environment, and actually kind of uniquely so. Chesapeake Bay has one of the most pronounced seasonal dynamics as far as like a temperate environment goes. In terms of like there's a lot of animals and sharks included migrating in and out. So in the winter, we only have two species. The basking shark, which is extremely rare and probably just not something to bet on as far as seeing in the bay. And then the pike dogfish, or spiny dogfish, which is pretty fairly common, so you could probably see it. And then in the summertime, that grows to 10 species. So we have 10 species of shark that enter the Chesapeake Bay proper. And then about 50 plus species as far as like the entire state goes, if you count deep water environments. So, but anyway, sorry, random ramble, but got a cool announcement. So I met with a collaborator last week, and we are going to be working on the fossil special, which I'm really excited. It's going to be our first designated fossil shark special. And this particular collaborator has a fossil collection. I myself have a fossil collection. And so we're going to be putting together a pretty cool special presentation and kind of have some cool activities ready as far as that goes. So fossil special is going to be later. It's probably, I think we're aiming for April-ish. Hopefully next month, but it's probably going to be in April. But because there's some cool things to develop with that. So, but I'm really excited because we usually do living species. Well, primarily do living species. Actually, we've only done living species, which I think is good from a conservation standpoint. But I think, maybe once or very few times a year, it might be good to take a look at the past and look at some fossil sharks. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a joint effort, and I will keep you guys posted on how that develops. But again, we're going to be combining our fossil collections. I have a lot of teeth, a lot of species from the kind of, I forget the formation as far as like it's mid-Atlantic. I want to say it's Yorktown Formation is one of these formations. Definitely Miocene teeth, and then a little bit older teeth than that, but mostly Miocene teeth. So.
Oh, hey, Howard, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Actually, I'll post it. We might be able to do something there. I know you have an amazing collection as well. So I will keep you posted in terms of like what we can do with that. So, but I'm really excited. I hope we can make it like Jurassic Park fame too. So we'll work on that as far as like trying to do that without like copyright infringement, but anyway, but I will keep you guys posted on fossil special. So, but with that, let's dive into the Caribbean rough shark. So, and again, Howard, this is really great art. Thank you so much for sharing this. And I just love like the lighting on the fins, kind of juxtaposed with the shark's main color. So I really love that detail where you have the yellow shining on the fins, and it's really nice. Kind of again like juxtaposed with like the shark's body,
main color pattern of like the dark brown bars and then the beige cream base. So, and as you can see kind of from this drawing, and we'll see more tonight as well, is this is a very angular looking shark, very dramatic looking shark. It's kind of compressed in the way where it's like, it kind of feels like if you took like your stereotypical shark build and you kind of smushed it, this is kind of like the shark that you would get as a result. So the head is almost kind of like fused to the, it almost feels like it's kind of shrunk into the body a little bit. The snout is very blunt. What's interesting is that this is an animal that has like a pyramid kind of shape, where you have the tall dorsal fins, but then the sides actually do come out in this like triangular angle. So it's a very odd looking species, and part of I kind of speculate as far as like the body plan, having those like wide sides, but then kind of like that flat belly. I'm kind of curious if that somehow helps it as far as when it patrols the seabed. This species, when it has been seen, has been it's been observed that it likes to stick close to the bottom. So I'm not really sure if that might be related. So we'll take a look at that as we dive in. So we have a couple pieces of footage for the Caribbean rough shark, which I'm really happy to see. So we can start out with this is a very quick clip, but it is kind of like a nice overview of the species. So there it is. Very quick, we'll rewind it, and then we'll dive into the Rotan clip, which the shark is at a bit of a farther distance, but hold on. I want to make that slow so we can kind of see. But yeah, see what I'm talking about as far as like that pyramid shape, where it just kind of feels like it's like you have the tall dorsal fins, but the sides like jut out. So it's very, very different looking from a lot of other sharks. And I honestly think it's a very handsome looking shark, as far as just like, it's just dramatic. There's no other shark species that looks like this. There's no other group of sharks that look anything remotely like rough sharks. So these are cousins to dogfish. They're in the order Squaliforms. But they look very alien compared to a lot of the sharks that we know. And honestly, rough sharks don't get a lot of airtime. They're not very popular. They don't really appear in... I feel like they just don't appear in like, introductory like shark books or like nature specials that much. So they're very cool, very rare group. So let's take a closer look of some higher quality footage. Oh, here we go. I just saw your comment, Howard. Can you hear me okay? Oh, good. I just saw your comment. Audio good. Awesome. So yeah. So this is off Rotan. Rotan is one of the best dive sites, or one of the dive locations in the world. Definitely one of the best dive locations in the Western Atlantic. I have not been, but I've heard just amazing things about Rotan. So, if anyone is a scuba diver, very, very famous location. But this is a pretty cool shot of the Caribbean rough shark. And look at him just chilling. And he's so small, but he's not afraid of this submarine, which is kind of cool. And he's definitely patrolling this like rocky seabed, looking for something. So we'll definitely rewind this and see if we can see any behavior. Again, note the gigantic dorsal fins. Again, proportionally just enormous relative to the body size. I'm curious if you compared rough sharks with like hammerhead sharks, who would proportionally have the higher fin. So I almost want to say it would be a rough shark, but some hammerhead species, especially the great hammerhead, have enormous dorsal fins. So hard to say. Even though this individual, it's pretty far away in the camera, it's still cool to just like watch it, like just kind of casually patrol the seabed. So let's see if we can notice any behavior. So there he is in the distance, going very slowly, making an about face. And you have to kind of factor in how much of the shark is maybe avoiding the sub, how much is it like being indifferent toward the sub, and maybe looking for something. I kind of think like, based on the fact that it's kind of getting closer to the sub, it may not be too disturbed by it, and it might be just like looking for something down here, as far as sticking close to the bottom. So, but these are great shots, especially when it comes up to the camera, where you can see just like those beautiful fins, and honestly that beautiful color pattern. Because other rough sharks, they usually have like a uniform brown or gray color. They're sometimes called pig sharks, or like just because like they have this like kind of funny snout that it's almost reminiscent of a like a bullhead shark, like a horn shark. But again, this is in squaliforms. It's a completely different group. But that's actually interesting though, because it does have like a softer features. It does have kind of like the more square shaped caudal fin or tail fin. And it does have like kind of like those curves as far as like the snout goes, kind of like bullhead sharks. So you have to wonder if that maybe is something, maybe that's an adaptation as far as hunting, or kind of maximizing the ability to smell for prey items that might be hidden in the seabed. So I don't know. We'll have to keep those in mind. Hey Roy, welcome back. It's good to see you again. Hope you had a good weekend. My girlfriend and I went to the Mariners Museum in Newport News, which is a really cool place because it is actually, weirdly enough, the headquarters of the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary. I know I've talked about National Marine Sanctuaries before, and the Monitor is actually the first one. The Monitor shipwreck is actually in North Carolina, but the headquarters, or the office, is in Virginia, which is kind of fun. So, very famous shipwreck, but it's still a really great habitat for a lot of wildlife, because in this part of the world, and this kind of applies to, I was about to say this applies to the Caribbean, except, I mean, the Caribbean does have coral reefs, so, like, the seabed is, like, very sandy for the most part, in, like, the mid-Atlantic region, and so there's not a lot of structure, and so when shipwrecks happen, like, when ships go down, they create new habitats for fish and sharks. Famously, sand tiger sharks love shipwrecks. So they're very important marine features, and it was really cool just kind of going to the National Marine Sanctuary, or like the Mariners Museum, which had the National Marine Sanctuary headquarters for the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary, because that is actually vital habitat for fish that are otherwise in like kind of a barren environment. Geology-wise, like the Caribbean is a sandy environment, but it does, of course, have the famous like coral reefs, so that is structured habitat. But so I'm gonna stop rambling on that. But for this guy, though, the Caribbean rough shark, it is pretty much exclusively a tropical species. So it does live in the Gulf of Mexico, lives in the Bahamian area, which is technically not part of the Caribbean. And then, of course, it does, as its name implies, live in the Caribbean proper. So, and again, it's really cool to see footage off of Roatan, because that's just a famous scuba diving location. Another one I could think of kind of in this part of the world is Belize. Belize is very, very famous scuba diving. Especially, I believe the Blue Hole is in Belize, and that's a wild location. So there's a lot of great spots in the Caribbean in general. Caribbean coral reefs, they're not as rich or diverse per se as like Indo-Pacific coral reefs or like the Great Barrier Reef, but they are unique. They're one of a kind, and I mean, like you can't beat it as far as just like, beautiful environment. So. We have one more clip that, this is also in Roatan, but this is much longer. Let me catch up on the comments, so. Oh, this is nice. I love that comment, Quackers. Dang, this is such an enchanting Sharko. They're cool. Like rough sharks are really, really cool. So let me double check how many species there are. I'm just checking the pocket guide of Sharks of the World, because it's a quick, handy-dandy, quick resource. This is from 2015, so almost 10 years old, which in the shark world is like, it's not outdated, but, you know, there's so many discoveries that we make that, you know, a grain of salt is required. But as far as this goes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rough sharks. 5 rough shark species. Oh, this is actually a great shot of this guy. Look at this. And he's doing the same thing. He's sticking close to the bottom. So just like, I think in all the clips we've seen, the Caribbean rough shark has been sticking close to the seabed. It's not really found in the middle of the water column. It's patrolling the bottom, which is kind of cool. So... And again, with that body shape where you have this, you know, dramatically high fins, but then just like a really flat belly, and that pyramid shape altogether, you have to wonder if that's related, in terms of like if there's an evolutionary adaptation or advantage to having that kind of body plan while patrolling, you know, the deep, dark seabed and sticking close to the bottom. So. I love that the sub is backing up. I think it said it was 400 meters, so this is the twilight zone. So sunlight barely penetrates here. Like you might be able to get blue light. Let's see. Also, I've said this before, but I would love to be in a deep water sub someday. There he is. I see the shark. It's hard to see, but he's kind of like towards the top. There he goes. We're getting closer to it. But I would love to be in a deep water sub. That's going to be like a bucket list retirement kind of thing, I think. Hopefully sooner. But I would love to be in a deep water sub. Because I just think this is incredible. Man, so it's just cool, like imagining like you're hovering like through the shadows, like over these like unseen features, and then this shark emerges in the distance. Like, you know, so it's like you're not alone. You know, it's almost kind of like what is that game? Is it Subnautica? It's like the horror game. Like I think that's Subnautica. But this is a much better version of it, where it's like, you know, you see a surprise out in the darkness, but it's actually this cute little shark. These guys are pretty small. They only get to be a couple of feet long. As you can see, they're very squashy, almost kind of looking like a football. Or like, I feel like they have a football shape. It's like a football of fins to me. But I love, like, look, you can really see how prominent the sides are, where it almost looks like there's a ridge on each side. So, like, on the left and the right side, it almost like there's this like curved ridge-like structure between the pectoral fins and the pelvic fins. It's a really, in so many ways, it's a very strange-looking shark and like a very unique-looking body plan. I meant to point this out earlier, but one thing I love about this particular kind of rough shark, you know, is the color pattern, but specifically the 3 bars on its face. It's really cool looking. And I hope he turns around so he can give us a better view. But I love the 3 bars on the head. You know, because I just think that's like a cool, like, very distinctive look. There we go. Keep turning. And I mentioned this at the top of the stream, but you can kind of see what I was saying earlier, where it's like the fin spines, you know, they seem to be at a certain angle, and then the rest of the dorsal fin kind of like grows almost irrespective of it. So it's like, it's such an unusual thing, because you usually see the spines at the base of the dorsal fin, but these spines are at the midpoint of the dorsal fin. And so it's like you have these like really prominent, like pretty thickly developed like interior margins of the fin, which is a very unique structure as far as sharks go, because most sharks just have like the plain fin, but this almost has like this kind of like, you know, like it's like the plain fin is hiding behind like these 2 like more like meaty muscular not muscular, but like meaty structures, kind of at the interior part of the fin. It's a very, very strange feature. which I love. I think it looks really cool. It's really dramatic looking, but. We'll rewind this clip because that was some interesting behavior. The shark, I think, just bumped into a rock, but he also took a quick swipe at the seabed, so he might have found something that he was looking for. And I actually really love this clip because this is a pretty nice long, just cruise with this guy. Does not seem bothered by the sub. Same with the other shark, or the other individual. Did not really seem bothered by the submarine. He's still kind of doing what he's doing. Not making an effort to swim away. Still hugging very close to the seabed. And I love that, just that beautiful tail fin, that caudal fin, just like paddling back and forth. Just cruising, conserving his energy, making sure that he's not expending any energy unnecessarily as he does his patrol. So, clip is nearly ending, so we'll rewind it and we'll keep a lookout for any behaviors. So, Super Bowl shark. I just saw. Oh man, I love that you guys like a lot of our chat you guys really truly love these sharks, and I love seeing this. So, I forgot the name, but where the dorsal fin doesn't attach all the way, free tip. Oh shoot, yeah. So there's like I forget the name too, because there's like the caudal notch or the dorsal fin notch. I know what you're talking about, Quackers. What do you call that? I'm having such a Monday, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I think that's like I think you just called a notch. Subterminal, okay, so terminal lobe, subterminal notch, subterminal margin, subterminal tip. So, okay. So it's like the terminal lobe. I think you might be talking about the terminal lobe of the, yeah, I think you're talking about the terminal lobe of the dorsal fin. So it's like that, or sorry, of the caudal fin. And then as far as dorsal fins goes, there is a free rear tip. If it's not fused, if there's like a bit of the fin that's trailing behind, like where the insertion of the fin is, but it's not really flush with like the rest of the fin. It's called a free rear tip, and we could take a closer look at that later. So, but the terminology is always confusing though. So, and I'm sorry, I got so focused on that I think I missed something. I think I missed the. I thought the shark did something where he kind of was on his side for a second. So let's take another look at that. I thought he was doing something. Sorry, I got distracted because that was intriguing me as well. So. Now this is kind of cool. So in this particular shot, okay, there we go. So in this particular shot, he's actually diving down, and his face just hit a rock. But I wonder if he was looking for something, or maybe was kind of like sensing something, either like smelling something, or maybe feeling the electrical pulse of something. I would imagine maybe just he was probably smelling something. But it was interesting seeing he was definitely taking a dive into that rocky feature. So he was actually in the water column for a little bit. So. Yeah, we don't have a lot of information on rough sharks as far as the Sharks of the World books go. They're just very rare species. They're not encountered often, but the times they have been encountered, again, they exhibit a similar behavior where they're just like sticking close to the seabed on patrol. Things I can think of as far as prey items would definitely be marine worms. Fun fact, the ocean is full of worms, so I have to commend Blue Planet for, I think Blue Planet 2, they're coming out with Blue Planet 3, by the way, I might have mentioned that before, but Blue Planet 2 did feature the bobbit worm, which I think that one is in Australia. But worms are a very big part of the marine ecosystem, and unfortunately, they don't really get a lot of attention. I mean, I get why, but like they don't get really a lot of attention, and we disproportionately feature on like the cute, pretty animals, and kind of exclude the ones that actually make up a pretty big part of the ecosystem. So worms in the seabed. I don't know how deep clams can go as far as like deep water environments. I would imagine they would be okay. Oh, what did the shark just do? Hold on. What did he just do? That was an interesting little twitch. One more time. That was an interesting little twitch. I'm not really sure what's going on there. And it's interesting that his left pectoral fin is kind of like, it almost seems like it's down at an angle. Yeah, look at that. Left pectoral fin seems to be a bit downward. And it's almost like is the shark swimming kind of almost on his side a little bit. Or is the shark kind of keeping pretty good balance and we're just seeing like a pretty dramatic slope? Like is the shark swimming at a really good, or like at a fair balance relative to, gravity in a water column? Like he's right side up, but this is like a very dramatically sloping environment. So. But it is cool to see how close it is to the seabed. Like, if it tilted one way or another, it would definitely touch it. Like, all that room, it could be anywhere in the water column, but it does want to be close to the bottom. So I suspect he's probably hunting or looking for something in the seabed. And I'm very curious as we kind of learn more about the species and this group tonight. Why did they evolve to be so dramatic looking as far as like the enormous dorsal fins and the fin spines being higher up on the body? I wonder, and please leave any guesses in the chat in terms of like why this particular group of sharks, the rough sharks, evolved the way that they do. And if you compare them to other species like lantern sharks, they live in the mid-water column, they signal to each other, they're bioluminescent. Cookie cutter sharks, they take big bites out of larger prey items. Those body plans are very cylindrical and small. This shark is a lot bigger, or like it's not bigger in size, but it's like wider in body plan. Dogfish are pretty cylindrical too. Okay, this guy just bumped into another rock. But it's kind of cool to see as like, let's see what he did actually. Hold on. You know what? I'm just noticing that. Let's slow that down. I don't know if I'm going crazy, but it almost looks like the pectoral fins are actually pretty articulated. Like he almost has like. Let's make that bigger. Keep an eye on how the pectoral fins move when he bumps the rock. Wow, that's a pretty high degree of articulation. So you know how like other species of shark walk on the seabed? This shark has a lot of articulation in his pectoral fins. Kind of like, you know how like bony fish are very freeform in how they move their pectoral fins. This guy's fins are not very stiff looking. They actually look like they can pivot in a lot of different directions. And kind of more so than most other shark species. Like when he bumps into this rock, and also this is pretty funny on replay, but when he bumps into this rock, the fin, look how dramatically that fin pivots. It almost looks like a bony fish as far as him being able to angle his pectoral fin. And like he's keeping his fins down, then they lift back up, he pushes them forward again, like with a little twitch. It's pretty amazing actually. That's actually, I would say as far as sharks go, that's actually a pretty dramatic range of motion. We've seen the most dramatic ranges of motion with like epaulet sharks, where they use their fins to walk. There's a couple different species that use their fins to walk on the seabed, and this species, as far as I could tell, would not do that. But you can definitely see like it keeps doing it. Like it's really articulating its pectoral fins pretty well, so they're not held stiff like most of the classic sharks that we think of. It's actually kind of like waving it around with a comparably free range of motion. That's actually really cool. And that might make sense as far as like having directional control, as far as like maximizing the ability to turn if you're trying to suddenly evade something, or maybe, like capture a prey item. I don't know. That's really cool. I did not notice that the first watch through. So we'll put the playback speed to normal. And just want to see that one more time at normal speed, because it looks really cool. And you can even see it even approaching the rock. Its fins are twitching. There he goes. He just like flicks it away, angles them down, angles them sharply down, twitches them forward. Then they start kind of like fading back into position, twitches them forward again. That's really cool. I never noticed that about rough sharks before, that they might have kind of a higher degree of motion than other sharks as far as their pectoral fins go. Pretty cool. All right. So, liking this guy so far. I'm very excited to learn what we can learn about Caribbean rough sharks tonight. Oh man, I love this. Like, boink. These comments are great. I can probably imagine this little triangle probably has trouble swimming through currents. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so cool. And good comment, Quackers. Caudalfin. Caudalfin is actually sweeping pretty dramatically far back and forth as well. So good range of motion on the caudalfin. So yeah. All right, let's check out some science on this species. So here we go. We'll start with good old fish base. Trying to get like a quick profile on the Caribbean rough shark. And actually, I'll leave the range map to IUCN, but here we go. So, Oxynotidae, the rough sharks. Etymology is Oxynotus, which means sharp. Notus means back, oxys means sharp. Notus means back. So it's referring to its keeled back. And actually, I have a better photograph of that or illustration of that somewhere. There we go. Okay. So, again, very dramatic looking animal, but keeled back is in like the back is sloping up into a pretty sharp angle. Again, you do have like these very high spines in the dorsal fin. The dorsal fins themselves are very high. So Oxynotus means sharp back. And then caribbaeus, of course, from the Caribbean coast of Venezuela, which is where the type locality, like the first individual of this species was captured. 1961 was when the species was described. So lives a pretty specific range, 400 to 457 meters. Let's see if that's corroborated on IUCN. That's a great picture, by the way. We'll take a closer look at that. Okay, 218 to 579 meters. Still a pretty limited, or not limited, but that's still a pretty like specific range. So it's like the upper twilight zone. Doesn't like to be in the sunlit zone. Doesn't like to be in the midnight zone. It likes to be in the upper twilight zone. Pretty interesting. Let's see. Found on upper continental slopes. Bottom temperatures range from 9.4 to 11.1 degrees Celsius. It's not too cold. It's cold, but it's not too cold. Probably feeds on bottom invertebrates and fishes. Ovoviviparous. So that means it's like they don't lay eggs. They have eggs that hatch inside them, and the eggs that hatch inside them are then birthed. So it's not true live birth or true like viviparity, but it is not laying eggs. So it's one of the 3 modes of reproduction for sharks: oviparous, oviviparous, and then viviparous. Let's see. Not much else on fish base. Not much of it. More information. Really great illustration. I see this is FAO. So FAO is the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. They create really good guides for fishermen to kind of help identify fish species. And this helps identify which species are endangered and which are not. Pretty great illustration here. You can see some of the dramatic features. That unique color palette where you have the bar over the eyes. This strange like middle section where it's like kind of like this big bar in the back. Blotchy belly, but then you have these speckles intermittently. Again, you have the dorsal fin spines angled almost like not like you have the fin spines kind of angled in one direction, and then the actual dorsal fins are kind of a little bit slightly off angle. Let's see. And then interesting photograph. Nice close-up. Very pretty eye, actually, in this photo. So this is from Honduras. This is also from Roatan. So looks like Roatan might be a hotspot for this, for encountering this species, which is kind of cool. Okay. Speaking of good photographs, look at this. Fantastic photo. The fuzziness kind of indicates that I feel like this came from a video camera. I think this is a still from a video camera. But again, you see that distinctive color pattern where you have these beautiful dark bars on the head, like these 3 bars, 2 on the eyes, 1 in the midpoint of the head. You have this interesting middle section where you have the dark bar on the back, dark blotches on the sides, but then like this kind of like bare white streak along the lateral line. So this bare white streak right here is actually aligned with the lateral line. So the lateral line again being that feature that helps all fish, sharks included, feel vibrations in the water. All fish have a lateral line. It's usually not as pronounced, but you can actually clearly see it here. There we go. So you can actually very clearly see the lateral line on the body, and then it lines up with this like nice white streak in that like kind of dark blotch on the back. Very cool. Beautiful shot. Honestly, really gorgeous looking head. Has very smooth features, these nice huge eyes with beautiful irises, and then this like proportionally like wildly huge body. Kind of like, you know, it's such an interesting angle, like where you have like this kind of like, you know, normal shark head expanding into this like proportionally enormous body. Very cool. Okay, so this species is least concerned according to IUCN Red List, and here is the range map where we can find the species. So, just like the description said, you can see that it lives on the slope. So it's not inshore, but it's not in the deepest part of like the Gulf of Mexico. It's right on the border of like where the continental slope meets like the deeper waters. That's actually really cool, like the shelf edge. Fun fact, that's a popular habitat for a lot of shark species. So dusky sharks like the shelf edge. Mako sharks is probably the most famous example of sharks that really don't like to come inshore that much. They like to be kind of more on the edge or in the open ocean. So, but further down, kind of beneath that layer of like epipelagic sharks, like sharks that like to be in the sunlit zone but in like the open ocean. It's cool to know that these like Caribbean rough sharks are just cruising on the seabed. This is an interesting distribution in the Bahamas right here. It's actually, it seems like may have been a lot of sightings in the Bahamas. These smaller points are very interesting. It's not like a broad range map. It's like it's very interesting to see like specific locations in the archipelago. Fascinating. And then again, the type locality where the first caribou rough shark was discovered is here. So again, on the shelf edge, not really quite inshore. It's really cool to see this particular feature where it's around like an it's like a ring around like a seamount or an island, but it's not like actually quite touching the island itself. That's actually really cool to see because again, it's a similar environment where you may have an island in the Caribbean, but like when you go offshore, like the slope dramatically plunges down. It's not really like a smooth transition. It's like the Hawaiian Islands, kind of similar, where it's like a dramatic change where you don't have like these broad plains of sand. It drops pretty steeply down into the twilight zone. So it's kind of cool to see that distribution. What makes this shark least concerned? Let's see. And let me catch up on the comments. Oh, I love that, Roy. Its colors remind me of a mix between brown and white chocolate. Yep. Oh, hey, Quackers. I don't know what's playing in the background, but I'm pretty into it. Yeah, so this is... I mentioned this at the top of the stream. I don't know if you guys have heard of Mist, but it's apparently a very... I've never heard of it until like a year ago, but apparently it's a very critically acclaimed puzzle game, and there's actually quite a few of them. The first one was like in the early 90s, and then they've progressed, I guess, through time. So this is Myst 4 with a little bit of Myst 3, I think. Yeah, I'll just make a comment. Because I think I've heard this is like a really cool... Oh, Roy played on my 3DS. How'd you do? Because I've heard it's a very difficult game. Like a very difficult puzzle game. So, I've never played it, but I do like the music. And I thought the vibes would be kind of cool because it's like, this shark is more of a deep water shark. It's very mysterious. We don't really know much about it. Just like Myst, And I think Myst is short for mystery. Because it's a puzzle game that is around. Oh yeah, kind of lost interest. Not gonna lie. Yeah, there was a DS game I had that was like it was like these two kids shipwrecked on an island, and you have to build things to survive it. And I played maybe 30 minutes of that. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of bored. So. Yeah. I appreciate that, Quacker Soup. I missed that announcement at the beginning. I got you. That's that's fantastic. So let's see. The Caribbean rough shark is a small deep water shark known from scattered records in the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean Sea. These records suggest a wider western Central Atlantic range than presently recorded. This is a poorly known species occurring on the upper continental and insular slopes at depths of 218 to 579 meters. So this is the Twilight Zone. And just for the record, I'm going to type this in the chat. Hold on. Epipelagic. So, I always think like kind of the delineations between the zones are pretty cool. And like marine habitats, they get to be pretty complicated very quickly. There's a lot of different ways to measure marine habitat, which is like, is it benthic, meaning it's on the bottom? Is it mid-water column? Is it offshore? Is it onshore? It actually does get pretty confusing pretty quickly. So, but kind of like the nice basic zones that I think are really cool are like the sunlit zone, twilight zone, midnight zone, and sometimes the definitions get kind of like lost. So I'm just gonna put this in the chat because I do keep saying this a lot. Because Zone. There we go. And then one more. Oh, I'm losing it. I am losing it. Let me delete my comment. Sorry. I can't multitask. Okay. Sorry about that. Bathypelagic. Okay, so I've added like kind of like the basic ocean zones. You have the sunlit zone, which is epipelagic. The twilight zone. Let me kind of delete that comment. Twilight zone is 200 to 1,000 meters, which is mesopelagic, and then the midnight zone, which is 1,000 meters, which is bathypelagic. So in the sunlit zone, you can get sunlight. In the midnight zone or the twilight zone, sometimes blue light gets through, but it's pretty dark. And then the midnight zone, there's no chance of light whatsoever. So most sharks kind of spend time in the sunlit or twilight zone. There's not a lot of midnight zone species, but we do have midnight zone sharks. There's the hadal zone, which is like, I think that's 4,000 meters, but it's like named after like Hades, you know, like the underworld, which I think is really cool. Make sure I got that right. And I think there's only a handful. It is 4,000 meters. Yep. I think there's only a handful of sharks that have peaked into the hadal zone. I think there's only a couple dogfish that have been found that deep, but it's insanely deep. Light is not the only thing that matters. Pressure, of course, is a huge thing that matters. As you go down further and further down, like every 10 meters is like a whole new layer of atmosphere. So it's a crushing pressure the further down you go. So, but yeah. I should have taken a pause before typing because I mistyped the midnight zone thing. I added these little notes like epipelagic, mesopelagic, bathypelagic. Those are kind of like the fancy scientific terms for sunlit zone, twilight zone, and midnight zone. It also makes things kind of confusing. It's like two different words for the same thing, but that often appears like in science. So, but I thought it'd be kind of cool, like as far as breaking it down. Let's see. Issues occurs largely outside the range of fishing activities, and therefore they're not suspected to be taken regularly as bycatch. The exception is the deep sea net, deep set occasional gillnets off Margarita Island, Venezuela, but this is not representative of its broader occurrence. Population trend is unknown, although it is suspected to be stable based on the absence of fishing effort within its range. Therefore, there is nothing to infer or suspect population reduction at this time, and the species is assessed as least concern. So that's really cool. I really appreciate yet another shark that is actually doing okay. One thing that I thought about recently that I really appreciate is we currently live in an age where there is a lot of conservation awareness for sharks, and just for species in general. This is the most aware and the most self-aware we've ever been in humanity. When you think about like the modern environmental movement, that started in like the 50s, maybe like the 1950s, maybe. As far as sharks go, shark awareness probably took off maybe the 80s at the earliest, maybe. Because you have Jaws, which, you know, started a lot of trophy hunting, and that came out in 1975. But then, like, kind of, like, starting to turn the narrative around may have began in the 80s, definitely took hold in the 90s. And onward, you know, there's been more self-awareness of, like, you know, sharks are in trouble, or, like, we need to be mindful of what we do to the ocean. So, which, the point of that being, I really appreciate that, you know, we live in an age of self-awareness now, where it's cool to see that, like, we've already, you know, enacted policies that are pro-environmental in different parts of the world. You know, there's a long way to go, but, like, you know, governments have already done things to be mindful of the environment, have already done things as far as, like, be mindful of carbon emissions, or, like, you know, sign up marine protected areas, or, like, having limits on catch, or actually bringing species back, like, bald eagles being a very good example of a species that we brought back. You know, ocean-wise, like striped bass. Striped bass are kind of in trouble again now, I think, but like that was a success story about like a fishery that we kind of like through careful management have brought back. Whales, really great example where whales used to be, hunted, like just without a second thought. And now it's like the poster child of conservation in the world. Like you really should not like touch a whale. Like it's one of the most protected, like whales are like some of the most protected group of animals, like period, where it's like there's so many laws against, like you can't even, in some countries you can't even, like in the United States you can't even like approach a whale within a certain range, unless you're part of like a research vessel. There's like pretty strict laws here as far as like what you can do. Kind of fun fact, since we do have Canadian viewers, right whales in the United States you can't do a lot with them. Like you really, really have to be careful, like how close you get to right whales. And in Canada, there's a little bit more leeway. So actually, some like whale people go across the border to have fun right whale experiences because like there's more like there's less stringency on like what you can do. But the point of all that being is that it's kind of amazing that like I feel like the fact that we're more self-conscious now, and that we still have species that are doing okay in a time of like this kind of self-awareness, I'm very grateful for that, where, like the mission now is like, to keep helping species that are vulnerable or species that are endangered and helping to bring them back. But it's really nice to see that, like, I feel like for the least concerned sharks, there's a part of me that kind of has this funny feeling of like they made it, in terms of like, oh my gosh, like they're doing okay. And they made it to the point where, we being such an impactful, species on the world, are starting to become more self-aware and, starting to be more mindful of like our impact on the world. And, I just kind of feel like I'm always like an optimist as far as the environment. So, I really appreciate that there's quite a few sharks that are doing okay. And that they have made it as far as like, continuing to be okay during an age of self-awareness where it's like, it's not, there's a consciousness here that wasn't there before as far as like how humans use the environment. So, that was a really random rant, but like, I was just kind of thinking about that recently. And, I just saw your comment, Howard. Yeah, I would agree with the 80s. Yeah. Cause it's like, it's interesting, like, because shark science really, really got a lot of popularity in the 80s. Awareness of shark impact really, really got a lot of popularity and a lot of, like, support in the 80s. But I was a little torn on, like, how much did the public know, as far as, like, reconsidering the impact of sharks. So that's actually really cool. I really appreciate that comment because like I wasn't 100% sure. There was a couple famous figures because I think Eugene Clark, she was big in the 90s, but I think maybe in the 80s too. I want to argue, or Jeannie Clark. She's a pretty famous shark figure that I think kind of helped with that. So, behind the scenes more so, like I know he's not a very popular name, but Leonard Campagno, or Leonardo Campagno, Leonard Campagno, what am I saying? Leonard Campagno, huge name in the shark world, the author of The Sharks of the World, that was published in 1984, so like 1984 or 1985, somewhere in the mid-80s, so a lot of big names, Jack Music, who I've talked about before, very famous shark scientist, also from Virginia, which is kind of fun, or worked in Virginia, Virginia Institute of Marine Science. A lot of good work in the 90s. I think he might have done some stuff in the 80s as well. But the point being is, like, I'm glad that we live in a time where there's been some groundwork already done. There's a lot more to do, but there's been some groundwork laid as far as, like, understanding shark conservation and kind of helping them. I'm just grateful that we live in an age of self-awareness as opposed to an age of just rampant, like, oh, let's just keep consuming and like keep hunting things without questioning why we're doing it. Because that time has already happened, and it's had a horrible impact. So, and I say that especially as being somebody from the Chesapeake Bay area, where when you think about like oysters in the bay in the early 1900s, man, there wasn't a thought about harvesting them, and then now they're like decimated. So they're barely hanging on. So yeah, just I'm glad we're in an age of self-awareness, and I'm glad that in the age of self-awareness we have sharks that are okay, like these little rough sharks, and I feel like I'm confident saying they're going to continue to be okay, as far as like they currently are outside of a lot of fishing pressure. Again, this is a shark that's in Bahamian waters, kind of this part of the world. This is the third species we've seen where it's like, there's not really a lot of fishing going on here. There's not really a lot of like deep water intensive fishing in this part of the world that it's like, that's actually really cool. I never would have thought that, you can make an argument that this might be a bizarre, like, hopefully kind of like refuge from deep water fishing, because it's this shark. I think the Bahamas saw shark, you can make an argument that it's actually doing okay. It's in the same range. There was another one we talked about recently, not the Cuban dogfish. It was another shark that I think it was a squalliform we were talking about recently that is in this range, in this Bahamian archipelago. And I know the Caribbean rough shark has a larger range than that, but still, I don't know. I think there's something interesting about this area, because this is like the third species we've seen where it occurs here, and it seems to be doing okay. So, I don't know. Well, let's continue to keep an eye on this area, because I just think that's an interesting interesting coincidence that may not be a coincidence. So, let's see if there's any habitat or biology notes. Let's see. Species reaches a maximum size of at least 49 centimeters total, so very small. Nothing else is known about its biology. It occurs in the upper continental and insular slopes over a variety of habitats, including rocky outcrops and sandy substrates. So, not a lot known. The species, again, occurs largely outside the depth range of current fishing activities, and therefore is not suspected to be taken regularly as bycatch. Interesting. And I know they have this exception, deep set artisanal gillnets off Margarita Island, Venezuela, which is intense and unregulated. But again, that's in the southern part of its range here. But this part, Bahamas, seems to be okay. Let's see. Anything else? Nothing else here. We'll keep looking, just to be mindful of time. Sharkreferences.com. Let's see if there's any information on this species. Same photograph, really cool photograph. This is from an ROV off Key West, Florida. So this particular photo was of a rough shark, Caribbean rough shark in Florida. Very cool. Yay, Roy, I just saw your comment. Agreed. I'm really glad that people are a lot more welcoming of sharks as of today. Yeah, like 100%. And also, so Shark Week, I mean, there's so much I don't like about it. There's so much negative stuff I have to say about it. But recently, they have made an effort about smaller sharks and, alien sharks and, the ones that are just, not very popular. They've made some kind of effort. And it has, Shark Week is so popular that has reached people. So, and it's funny, there's a lot I don't like about Shark Week, but I have to give them credit and kudos for spreading awareness. They do spread awareness in their own way. but they do. And it helps with exactly what you said, Roy, that, people are more welcoming of sharks. And part of that is there's more of an understanding of sharks as far as they're not just Jaws. I feel like we've moved. I'm happy to say I feel like we've moved comfortably away from that, where it's I think people have more of an awareness that they're pretty diverse. There's a lot of them, and that some are really in trouble. So I appreciate there's more awareness of what a shark is and like what, it's not just this like very limited definition of like a great white. I appreciate that there's more pop culture awareness of the diversity of sharks. I know I've been talking about video games a lot, but like one bizarre thing I've noticed lately is like there's a couple of games like they're like aquarium games or like phone games or like Roblox, weirdly enough, or like diving games like that actually do feature quite a bit of diversity. What is that one? Abzul. Abzul was 2016. Featured an oceanic white-tip shark. It features a lot of marine species, but it actually has like species descriptions and pretty accurately rendered sharks. Some of the rare sharks that we've talked about on this particular channel, on this particular stream, when I look for information on them or try to pull up stuff on them, I've seen them appear in Roblox. Like, I don't have a Roblox account or anything, but like, oh my gosh, Endless Ocean. I have a lot to say about that. I don't have a Roblox account, but it's like, if you look online and like you try to find, I think it was like a deepwater cat shark. It was like an Apestourus cat shark. It's like one of the few things you can pull up on Google is like, oh, you can find this on a specific Roblox quest thing. So, which is bizarre, but like cool in the sense that like I appreciate that there's more like pop culture stuff going on with sharks. Some mobile games, like some mobile aquarium games, have kind of a startling understanding of diversity. Animal Crossing, my youngest brother and his girlfriend, they play, especially during COVID, that new Animal Crossing game, and there's like an aquarium section that actually has accurate sharks in it. Like, I was really blown away by that. So, yeah, it's starting to kind of seep through, which I really appreciate. And finally, before I get to Endless Ocean, because I have a lot to say about it, I love Endless Ocean. But like, when I started Dr. Jaws, part of it, and this is now 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. Part of it was kind of like, understanding that a lot of scientists didn't really have a lot of tools to reach people, or like, they didn't really know how to communicate some complex information to the public. And I have to say, that's changed a lot, and that's changed pretty dramatically. There are some big names who are like, like big names in shark research who actually have a pretty sizable social media presence and a sizable, like, they're able to convey that information to people. So it's changed. It's continuing to change, I think, ultimately for the better, which I really appreciate. So in ways I never really expected. So, yeah. I mean, I am optimistic as far as shark conservation goes. So, however, Shark Week brought a lot of awareness to the public and also encouraging some incredible content by those who want to correct Shark Week. That's a good point. That is a good point. I mean, like, myself included, as far as like, just like, that was one of, on this channel, I did have a couple Shark Week critique videos. I took them down because I wasn't satisfied them. At the end of the day, I had them like mid-10s. They got a sizable viewing, but I was like, it's not my favorite kind of work, so I don't have them up anymore. But to your point, like, it galvanized me to do that. It galvanized a lot of shark people to speak up and create some pretty cool channels and pretty cool movements that like are critical of Shark Week. And actually the debate of Shark Week, like you said, like the debate of Shark Week gets very popular and does get news coverage. So it's like, Shark Week itself, I will always regard it as like a C, like on an A to F scale. I would always give it like a C just because it's like, it's got some good stuff. It's got some real garbage on there. But like, as far as its impact on pop culture, it has introduced scientists to the public and research to the public that otherwise you can make a very good argument that would not have been there, So, like, and like you said, it's also introduced criticisms and critiques, so more content, and like more like accurate content and more content to make people think about like, what is a shark and like, is this approach appropriate to sharks. So finally, Roar Roy, Endless Ocean. Yes, I love Endless Ocean. There's two versions, if I remember correctly. There's Endless Ocean, and for anyone who doesn't know, Endless Ocean was a Wii game where it's basically like a scuba diving simulator, and it's the coolest thing ever. Like, you basically have this like journal, and you dive these different places, and you try to search for specific kinds of fish and add them to your journal. You also look for like marine artifacts, and you look for like I think the narrative thrust of the first game is you're looking for this like Leviathan kind of creature that it is actually like they base it as much in biology as they can. So it's not like a magical mythical creature. It's like I don't want to spoil it, but there is something that they're looking for that is this very rare thing that fits comfortably in, it's not scientifically accurate, but it's like it fits comfortably in the rest of the game, where they have all these really cool renders of like humpback whales and like oarfish or white sharks, or like they had horn sharks. I remember they had horn sharks, which I really enjoyed looking for. So it was like a 2006, 2007 Wii game. I played it all the time. Oh, Roy, I just saw your comment. Played it 24/7 as a kid. Yeah, I played that. I played that so much. Like, I beat the first game. I think I went to college by the time the second game came out, so I unfortunately didn't get to play it. But the second game was really cool because they had different dive locations. So one of them was like ancient Greece, like one of them like the like Aegean Sea. One of them I think was like a tropical like mangrove location, if I remember correctly. I thought it was really cool. So it's like Endless Ocean, and then Endless Ocean 2 Blue World, I think, is it. And then Abzu, which is 2016, I kind of think it's like almost like the spiritual successor of Endless Ocean. It's very similar in a lot of ways. But yeah, those games are awesome. Awesome. I think there's one more that's like an ocean simulator or diving simulator game, and I can't remember what it is, but I think there's something in the Endless Ocean thread that's new. So we'll have to look for it. But that would be, man. Oh, whoa, what? Oh, Endless Ocean is coming to the Switch. What? Like, oh, well, yeah. No, okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. I gotta. Yeah. Yeah. I want to. Yes, please. I really. Yeah. That sounds awesome. That sounds so cool. That sounds awesome. Yeah. I will let you guys know if I get. Wait, not if. When I get that, because that sounds incredible. That game is amazing. So cool. Oh my gosh. If I figure out how, I don't know if I know there's a way you can like live stream a game. I don't know if I have the equipment for it. I have to look more into it, but that might be kind of fun. I might just do that for giggles someday, where it's like, and I'll let you guys know if that happens, like a Let's Play of Endless Ocean Switch. I don't think I have the equipment for it, but we'll see. We'll see. That might be fun to do. So, and that reminds me, I think, Roar, you might have missed this, but we are doing a fossil special in April. So I'm working with a collaborator, and we both have fossil shark collections that we're creating a special presentation for you guys, like a special streaming episode for everybody. And our timeline right now is April. I'm hoping we can do a bit sooner, but we will see what happens. But we started kind of working on this together, so very excited for that. So a fossil special is coming. And again, two different shark collections, two different fossil collections are going to be displayed. And with a lot of fun commentary between not just me, somebody else is going to be on here. So I'm very excited about that. So, but here we go. Back to the Caribbean Roughshark, and sorry for that diatribe, by the way. I mean, like, it's not diatribe, like that tangent. But like, that's part of the stream, as far as just like we can always go in a lot of different directions. And even though I have a lot of tabs, there's not a lot of information on this shark specifically, so we'll go into each one. But I think we had a little bit of time to veer a little bit. So, but it's like Adventure Time. We have a mission, and we sometimes get there, we sometimes don't. But let's see. We've got the biological description here, but I want to see if there's any other like behavioral information. It's an interesting list of records here. Also, look at this, the Oregon. I feel like we've seen the ship's name before, the Oregon. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I feel like that name came up before. No interest for fisheries. Same thing as far as the bottom temperature goes. Lancelet upper teeth, lower blade-like teeth in less than 12 rows. Although they're not showing the teeth description, that is interesting because that's kind of more like a. It sounds a little bit more like a dogfish tooth type. So, but this is really cool. This photograph is from the Cayman Trench off Roatan, so 420 meters. Very cool individual. Same color pattern. One thing I'm noticing here, this is kind of cool. So there was one photograph that we saw earlier. Was it this one? This one. You can kind of see a slight difference in the spot pattern. It's roughly similar, kind of in the midpoint of the body, but not exactly the same. And it's kind of cool. Like, if you wanted to track individuals, maybe you could create, like, how, like, humpback whales have unique fluke patterns. That'd be kind of cool project to do if you wanted to track. I mean, like, it'd also be a little ridiculous because it's, like, this shark is so rarely encountered that I don't know how feasible it would be to track individuals as far as, like, identifying them visually. I think it's a Monday brain thought, but like, anyway, but like the point being is like, it is kind of cool to see that the patterns on the back of the body do seem to be a little bit different between individuals, because that is not lining up with this. Like, it's roughly the same, but like the positioning of the spots is a little bit different. In this individual, there seems to be more of an open space at the forward edge of the spots, and then in this individual, it does not seem to be. It seems to be a little bit more condensed. So, they do look a little different. So, it's very cool. Nice. I think we saw this diagram earlier, but very cool profile of the species. Again, very dramatic looking shark. Really love it. And, I did have these photographs up in a separate tab so we can get a better look at it. Very cool. Same thing, just patrolling the seabed. Here we go. I've got a couple notes from a couple different repositories as far as hopefully they can shed some more light on this species. Type. So this figure, although it doesn't have the color palette on it, it is a really good illustration of what I've been talking about as far as the spines go. Whereas, like, you see how the spines are angled in a certain way, and then the actual dorsal fin is at kind of like a 45-degree angle off of it. It's almost like the spine is like a mast, and then the fins are kind of like flying off of it, which is really cool. Very dramatic looking shape. I don't think this guy is in here. Oh, here we go. Nope, that's not him. Oh, here we go. Oxynotus, caribbaeus, Caribbean Roughshark, West Central Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, so it's not really new information. It's saying it's from the upper slope. I do want to come back to this report because this particular report has information on deep water sharks in general. So I do want to take a look at this. in more detail later. And this is from the IUCN Shark Specialist Group. And that's really cool looking. It almost looks like a lantern shark of some sort. So, okay. Here's another IUCN thing, an IUCN record. Caribbean rough shark. At the time of this particular assessment, this is 2004, it was a data deficient species. Now it's least concern. Pretty much the same information. Caribbean rough shark is a rare, small, deep-water benthic shark recorded from the Gulf of Mexico and Venezuela on the upper continental slope at depths of 402 to 457 meters. It attains a maximum size of at least 49 centimeters. But virtually nothing is known about its biology. So, future shark scientists, this is a good one to study. This species is not known to be of interest to fisheries at present. There is insufficient information available to assess the species beyond data deficient. Here's FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. So, let's see. English name, Caribbean rough shark. French, I don't speak French, but Centrini Antilles? I don't know. Tiburon Onoto is Spanish. Okay. Let's see. Field marks. Short, blunt snout, high sail-like dorsal fins. I love that they use the term sail-like, because I literally just said that like the fin spines are like a mast, and then like the fins themselves are kind of like a sail behind it. And I also kind of love, I mean, this is kind of dumb, but like it's the Caribbean rough shark, and you think of like Pirates of the Caribbean, mast, fins, pirates. I don't know. There's something cool about that, but it's definitely, this little guy is so small and so seemingly so gentle that it's like doesn't quite fit the pirate vibe, but the body plan does. It's very cool. Sail-like dorsal fins with spines, no anal fin. First dorsal spine inclined forward. High, thick, triangular body with large, coarse denticles. Small, circular spiracles. Lanceolate upper teeth. Lower blade-like teeth in less than 12 rows. Color pattern in dark bands on a light background. Let's see. Little known bottom shark of the upper continental slope off Venezuela and possibly elsewhere in the Caribbean. Let's see. Not a lot known on this guy. It is cool to compare him to the other rough sharks, so we could take a look at them. And actually, let's take a look at the family. So rough sharks are in the family Oxynotidae. These are unmistakable, compressed, rough-skinned small sharks of high, sail-like spine dorsal fins and no anal fin. Oxynotids are temperate to tropical, poorly known, deep-water bottom sharks of distinctive and bizarre appearance that live on the upper continental and insular slopes and outer shelves at depths of 40 to 720 meters. They currently have a disjunct distribution off Venezuela in the western Atlantic, British Isles to South Africa in the eastern Atlantic, that's kind of crazy, and Australia and New Zealand in the western Pacific. All the four species are small and harmless sharks, mostly smaller than 1 meter, but exceptionally to 1.5 meters in one species. These sharks, judging from their appearance, are probably sluggish and rely on their expanded body cavities and large oily livers, 16 to 23% of total weight in one species, to attain neutral buoyancy so that they can hover and slowly swim above the substrate without needing forward motion or lift. So that's really cool. So that's actually a really cool piece of information. So it's like an underwater balloon, basically. It's kind of that's actually really cool, or like a dirigible. So the reason why it's so squashy looking and so big looking is that it's not really using it's not propelling itself forward with like muscular like action. It's not like driving itself forward and angling its fins to get lift. It's actually relying on its oily liver to help keep that neutral buoyancy. So it's kind of like a balloon, or like an underwater equivalent of a balloon, or again like a dirigible. So it's like if you say that most sharks are like fighter planes or airplanes, this is like the balloon of the shark world, which is kind of cool. I never thought about that as far as like why it has such a bizarre shape and has like, you know, such an expanded appearance, but that makes sense. So very, very cool. That's something I did not know before. We had another rough shark, but I don't think we've ever talked about that fact before. So rough sharks are apparently that big and squashy, so that it helps kind of lift them off the seabed. So without needing to expend a lot of energy swimming, so they can just like slowly cruise. You know, just like a balloon with a little propeller can just like slowly go through the sky. You know. Or a dirigible, I should say, with a little propeller, could slowly kind of cruise through the sky, you know, without really expending a lot of energy. It's already afloat, so you just need to push it just a little bit, and there you go. So, seeing the shark again in that context, that's actually pretty cool. I really, really enjoy that concept. And it makes total sense. So, nature, in every way, always tries to conserve energy. So, yeah, that's so cool. So it just takes a gentle push of its dorsal fin, or sorry, its caudal fin to move the guy forward, or move the shark forward. I just saw a comment, Roy, blimp shark. Yes, blimp shark. So, if we discover a new species of Oxynotus, we should name it the blimp shark. So, which is actually not a bad name. That's not a, maybe like, actually no, that's not a bad name at all, because it's essentially kind of what it is, you know. That's so cool. Makes it even more adorable. Blimp shark. Yeah, like, wow. So it's maintaining neutral buoyancy. So that way it could be very close to the seabed, but it doesn't need to worry about, like, you know, swimming really fast to, like, you know, lift off of it. You know, it could just hover right above it, searching for its prey, which, you know, presumably are invertebrates buried in the sand, or in the sediment, I should say. Very cool. All right. Well, I really appreciate that. Let's go back. Let's see if we can find more information. The prey of these sharks is little known and includes polychaetes. Okay, so polychaetes are worms. They are sometimes popular polychaetes are like bristle worms, clam worms. You know, they're gross looking, I'm not going to lie. But polychaetes are very important group of marine worms. They are very important prey items for a lot of other animals. They're also a vital part of the ecosystem and a huge part of the ecosystem as far as marine environments go. Pretty much every beach you go to will have a polychaete. You know, like they all have them. Every tidal substrate has a polychaete, essentially, or a marine worm, essentially. So you're welcome. They're there. You know, but you know, as you could probably imagine, you know, they keep to themselves. They don't really bother you. So their mouths are, but like, you know, it makes sense that this particular shark species goes after polychaetes, because polychaetes, again, they live in the sediment. They live in the sand, and this guy is definitely makes sense that he's patrolling for them, because he's spending so much time close to the sand. So, very cool. More facts from FAO. Their mouths are very small and ringed with papillose lips, and their teeth are small and, though strong, suggesting a diet of small bottom invertebrates and fishes. So, papillose lips, I'm kind of curious if that means, like, I wonder if the lips are supposed to be sensory, you know? Since it is spending so much time in the seabed. So, the very large nostrils and nasal organs and labial papillae may be especially important in locating prey. Okay, there you go. Development is ovoviviparous without a placenta. There's very limited interest in fisheries. There are relatively uncommon catches in bottom and pelagic trawl fisheries. They're mostly I don't like that. Yeah. I'm glad it's very limited interest in fisheries. Remarks: this family, with its single genus Oxynotus, is very close to the family Squalidae, subfamily Salmoniosidae, and is often synonymized with the Squalidae. So apparently these are closely related to the true dogfish. Pending further works on squalid interrelationships, I prefer to retain it as a family following Bigelow and Schroeder. Okay, so I think it makes sense that Oxynotidae, the rough sharks, are kind of like their own thing. You know, I mean, obviously they look so dramatically different. So I like that they're their own thing, but still, you know, it's kind of cool to see that they're very closely related to dogfish in general. So this one is the prickly dogfish. So very prominent ridge before the dorsal fin, so it looks very, very different from our Caribbean rough shark. It's not just the color. That first dorsal fin looks entirely different. This one lives in New Zealand. The Caribbean rough shark, so not, I don't want to be insulting, but a lot prettier looking, more colorful looking. It's kind of a cool view of the underside of the head for this species. Very prominent lips, so I see what they mean as far as like papillose lips. And then you can kind of see, it's a little rough, but like you can kind of see the sharpness in the dentition there. Whoops, I just went a little too far. The angular rough shark. Now this is the one that we covered last year, so it's still on the channel, the angular rough shark. There's a really adorable rescue video of this species. And is this the European one? Yes, this is the European one. So this is the one that is from British Isles to Morocco, northwestern Africa, and potentially the western side of Africa in general. Lower teeth are pretty prominent. Upper teeth are quite spiky. Still looks quite a bit different. The dorsal fin looks more like a perfect triangle, kind of like equal shape in all sides, whereas our shark has a much higher, more prominent dorsal fin. A little bit more of a dramatic dorsal fin. Okay, and I think there's one more in here. The sailfin rough shark. So this is kind of an opposite end of the body plan, where the dorsal fins are very prominent, very sickle-shaped looking, very falcate looking, and actually the body looks a little bit more elongate. So, and this one also lives in Europe. Interesting. In Africa. Very fascinating. Okay, so rough sharks are really cool. You can definitely tell ours very clearly apart from the others, both because of the color pattern, but then also just like the angle of the dorsal fins. It's definitely more of a narrow base as far as the spine goes, and then like the actual dorsal fin is just it's kind of flamboyant. It just is pretty prominent looking, very falcate looking. I kind of feel like this species, the Caribbean rough shark, is unmistakable compared to the other ones. Which is really cool to see. It's nice to see something that's a little bit more easily identifiable. Case in point, this is not a Caribbean rough shark, but contrast with this one, this is a Caribbean rough shark. I think this is a photograph of I want to say this is the angular rough shark. And then juxtaposed with the Caribbean rough shark, you can see such a difference with the color palette. So. Roy, I just saw your comment. It's so cool seeing the different methods that sharks have to maintain buoyancy. No swim bladder to either keep swimming or gulp air to use your liver. Yes, so that's a really good point. I really appreciate your comment on gulping air, because that's a sand tiger thing. Sand tiger sharks gulp air to maintain neutral buoyancy. So that's a really cool comment. It's really cool to see the different methods, and it's also really cool to see that some sharks are okay on the seabed, like some of the like carpet sharks or like the angel sharks, and then or like the white-tipped reef shark, and then some sharks, like do the classic just keep swimming thing. But it's really cool to see the different methods and the diversity of the different methods. So, This is Shark Trust, by the way, which is a pretty prominent conservation organization in Europe. So I'm kind of curious what they have to say about rough sharks. Since it's 10:30, by the way, I think it might be a good time to think about what shark we want to do next week. I know we talked about bramble sharks / prickly sharks, which would be a good pick, but I'm open for anything as well. So please leave a comment on sharks we would like to cover for next week. But I'll just skim through this, see if there's anything interesting, because this is about the family of rough sharks in general. Da, 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 da. Caribbean rough shark lives in the Caribbean. Oh, excuse me. Not a lot of... Oh, here we go. Rough sharks have unusual teeth. Their top jaws have spear-like upper teeth, forming a triangular pad. The bottom teeth are very compressed, with saw-like cutting edge of around 9 to 18 rows. The Caribbean rough shark's feeding behaviors have not been observed, but it's expected that they feed on bottom invertebrates and small fishes. Like other rough sharks, very little is known about their behavior or ecology. Quite the mysterious group. This photograph is great, by the way, because you can see that really prominent ridge at the base. That's actually really wild looking. Like, see how like the outer edges of like the belly are just ridged, you know, like, or keeled. Like, they're very sharp looking. You know, there's no shark I can think of that looks like that. Like that's actually pretty wild looking. And this is what I mean when I say pyramid shape. I mean, that's like a classic, you know, like 3 sides of the pyramid. It's a pretty dramatic looking shark. It's the Illuminati blimp shark. It's like, you know, not to be insulting. Actually, I think this is a really beautiful shark. It's just very dramatic looking, very different looking. So, Blimpus illuminatus. Actually, yeah, if we name a new rough shark, I would like to submit Oxynotus blimpus illuminatus, or Oxynotus illuminatus is going to be the species name. I will submit for that. So, let's see. Not much new information. Same range map. Oh, interesting, by the way. Banner image is, it was not the angular rough shark. This is a sailfin rough shark in the banner. And then here's the Caribbean rough shark here. Not a lot of new information, but Shark Trust does some really good work with sharks in Europe. So, you know, pretty cool group. So, Howard, yeah, that is strange. Yeah, it's so dramatic looking. I love it. I think it's fascinating, but it is weird, you know. But it's really cool. I know I've been talking about fossil sharks tonight a lot, and like, it's kind of cool to see living sharks that have dramatic features, because like fossil sharks, you know, have, you know, the classic. Helicoprion has classic dramatic features. You know, there's fossil sharks that look like flying fish. You know, it's really cool to see a living shark that just like looks like it's from another world. You know, like this is alive and part of our universe, and it's just like it's so different from our concept of sharks. So it's, you know, it's a very weird feature down here as far as like, you know, that like the keel, like those ridges or those keels on the other side of the belly, but. You know, very cool. It's cool to see like distinctions amongst sharks. So let's see. This is not a publicly available paper. The abstract, it was something about first in situ habitat observations images of the Caribbean rough shark. This actually we might have seen. It looks like, yeah, some of the images and video and like photographs we've seen, I think it is from this expedition, because this is also from Roatan. So these records document an extension of the known geographic, bathymetric, and temperature ranges of the species to include southern Florida and the western Caribbean Sea over a depth range of 218 to 579 meters, and in water as warm as 16 degrees Celsius. This is cool. More photographs, including an X-ray of the Caribbean rough shark. That's cool. This one is in Belize, and actually, look at that. The that color, the markings on the back, also very different. The spots are much darker than the blotches on the back, which is kind of cool to see for this particular individual. Very close to the seabed. Ooh, Howard, spade nose shark. Yes, let's do it. Spade nose shark would be awesome. So that was Isomorphodon. Was that correct? That would be great. Scoliodon. No, Scoliodon laticatus. Yeah, let's do it. All right. I'm gonna put in the name, or here we go. Spade nose shark. Scoliodon laticatus. Perfect. Excellent suggestion, Howard. Yeah, we will do the spade nose shark next week. That one's going to be really cool. It's a kind of requiem shark, but unlike anything we've ever seen before. So that one is going to be awesome. Yes, please. So excellent suggestion. That will be next week's shark. It's fun to bounce around from like the deep water to the shallow water environment. So that the spade nose shark is going to be back into the shallows, and I think that one is that one in Australia? Because that one is not a species or a group. We don't have any Scoliodon over here, so it's like, let's see, Western Indian Ocean. Okay, Western Indian Ocean. So okay, yeah, that's going to be cool. So yeah, let's do it. Let's see. I'm going to check up some more photographs on the Caribbean Roughshark. That one's a bit grainy. Same with this one. Yeah, that's pretty grainy as well. Still a really beautiful looking species. I do want to check out the X-ray. So this is from Smithsonian Institution, United States. Now this is kind of amazing. Look at this. Wow, that's actually a great image. Look how deep that spine is. Wow, look at that. Look at that. So basically this part right here is just like this fleshy part in front of the spine. The spine is anchoring, the dorsal fin, and the dorsal fin is, very thin in comparison. Both dorsal fin spines, very strong looking, very huge, actually. Huge on the species. Because, like, other dogfish, the fin spines are, smaller because they're closer to the actual body cap. Like they're closer to the actual body. Like, they're closer to the back. So proportionally, even though it doesn't look like it, proportionally compared to other dogfish, these are enormous spines. That's really cool looking. It's a great X-ray image as well. So. Actually, one thing you can see here too, if I'm seeing this correctly, these little spikes right here, if I'm not mistaken, these are the dermal denticles, and this is part of what gives this group the name Roughsharks, is that they have unusually prominent dermal denticles and unusually large dermal denticles. So it's kind of cool to see them appear all over this X-ray. They're very prominent looking. Wow, it's a good image. Very interesting shark. I can't get over the spines. Those are enormous. Man. Yeah, Roy, there's no way a predator is going to try to eat them. Yeah, that's no joke right there. Very cool. Here's a beautiful illustration, also kind of illustrating the prominence of the spines. I don't think there's new... Let's see. Oxynotus caribbaeus. from the Caribbean coast of Venezuela. Let's see. There's Oxynotus japonicus, so it looks like there's 5 species. In that FAO guide, we only had 4, but looks like a 5th species was discovered since the guide was written in 1985. Very cool. Okay. Not much more information. Let's see. So I think we have a little bit of time left, because I know these 2 papers, these are kind of more about sharks in general, and there wasn't really anything on the Caribbean rough shark specifically. So I do want to go back to this particular study, because this was a collection and summarization of available data on deepwater chondrichthyans, biodiversity, life history, and fisheries. I do want to scan through this really quick, and then we'll wrap up for tonight. Even though there's not a lot of information on the Caribbean rough shark in general, it's still an anchor point as far as like kind of like the brilliance of shark diversity. And Howard made a really good point earlier about fossils, where it's like exactly these weird species have a lot to teach us. Like absolutely, in terms of like, sharks are not limited to one body plan. And it also, like, as far as evolution goes, it's a great example of, like, it's not one strategy that works. It's like, it's whatever fits the specific situation at the time. It's like whatever body plan works with a specific kind of environment at the time. And so for sharks in this deep water environment, this bizarre shape is actually the most successful and the most fit. And we live in a world where it's like, this works, white sharks work, blue sharks work. Megalodon does not work. This is not a planet that can sustain Megalodon. Helicoprion does not work. It's just not really, a useful adaptation in this day and age. So it's kind of cool to see, like, these are images of, what is successful right now. And then, like, the sharks of the past that look wildly different, there's something about that survival strategy at that time that just wasn't really fitting, So it's always, like, Earth is always, like, a constantly dynamic, constantly changing environment. And it's just really cool to see, like, you can have this beautiful biodiversity here today. And that, it's still, like, it's markedly different from the past, and it works. Like, as bizarre as this looks, this is actually a successful body plan as far as sharks go. So it's a lot. There's a lot that we can learn from the biodiversity. So it's just so cool. Let's see. I'll just skim through this, because this is, again, just about sharks in general. Let's see. It's kind of a cool report. This report provides a global review of data on deepwater chondrichthyans. For the purpose of this project, deepwater chondrichthyans have been defined as those sharks raised in holocephalans, so like chimeras, whose distribution is predominantly at or are restricted to or spend the majority of their life cycle at depths below 200 meters, so sharks that are in the twilight zone and beyond. This depth is generally recognized as the continental and insular shelf edge, and therefore deepwater species are those occurring on or over the continental and insular shelves and beyond, including the abyssal plains and oceanic seamounts. 278 sharks are deep water. It's really cool. The bulk of the deepwater shark fauna is attributable to the squaloid dogfishes, or the squaliforms, and sclerinoid cat sharks, or the carchareniforms, family Sclerinidae, together comprising 85% of deep-sea sharks. Now that's really cool, and it makes sense, but like, it's really cool to see that, like, the majority of sharks that are in the deep ocean are the dogfish and the cat sharks. That's also kind of hilarious that it's the dogfish and the cat sharks that inhabit the deep. That's kind of funny. That was not intentional, the naming convention, but, like, it's actually really funny. The total number of known species is ever increasing as exploratory and taxonomic work ensues. Undescribed taxa, those new or relatively identified species yet to be formally treated by science, represent over 1/5 of all known deepwater chondrichthyans and the systematics and interrelationships of several groups of deep-sea chondrichthyans remains unresolved. Oh, this is cool, guys. The higher proportion not only highlights the overall lack of knowledge of the deep-sea fauna at even the most basic level, but also that the deep-sea chondrichthyan fauna is far from fully documented. That's super cool. Oh, sorry. I know it's almost 11, but I want to keep going on this for a bit. For the vast majority of deepwater chondrichthyans, details of their life history characteristics are lacking, and many groups remain very poorly known. There's a reasonable amount of information on the biology of some species of dogfish shark, gulper sharks, lantern sharks, sleeper sharks, cat sharks. But in general, our understanding of deepwater fauna is lagging considerably behind the level of knowledge of some inshore and pelagic chondrichthyans. Let's see. Dogfish litters are pretty small. Oxynotus, so like our rough shark, has 7 to 15 pups in Oxynotus. Interesting. Deepwater dogfish generally do not have well-defined reproductive seasons, and it's difficult to elucidate the reproductive cycle. Possible that reproductive cycles are biennial or triennial, and this has been confirmed for some species. Lengthy reproductive cycles such as these obviously limit annual fecundity. So this is a big concern as far as conservation goes. Let's see. They're talking about cat shark eggs. Attempts to age deepwater cat sharks is unsuccessful. Aging methodologies are basically in question. Maximum age for certain dogfish can be 54 years, 70 years, 71 years. This is cool. So for gulper sharks, Centrophorus squamosus, the oldest age estimate is 70 to 71 years. That's really cool. I don't think we have any notes on Oxynotus. All deepwater species should therefore be considered to have limited productivity and to have limited ability to sustain high levels of fishing pressure and be slow to recover from overfishing. Oh, this is interesting. Where data or information are available, intensive fishing has led to the collapse of deepwater squalloid dogfish stocks, particularly Centrophorus species. So these are gulper sharks. In Australia, fishing has depleted upper slope species with 99% declines for gulper sharks over a 20-year period. Squalus megalops, that's a kind of dogfish, but I forget which one Squalus megalops is. Increase in abundance. Okay. Additionally, severe declines have been documented for other species. One chondrichthyan, Squalus megalops, increase in abundance. Small abundant species probably recruiting from the shelf slope and benefiting from declines in other species. Recent management. Oh, okay. So, as some shark species have been overfished, others, like this little dogfish, may have actually replaced their niche. That's pretty interesting. Let's see. I'm not seeing a lot of Oxynotus notes, like Roughshark notes. So, might just kind of skim for Oxynotus just to make sure we're not missing anything. We got that they have 7 to 15 pups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 species. the prickly dogfish, the Caribbean rough shark, the angular rough shark, the Japanese rough shark, and the sailfin rough shark. All pretty much in a similar range. They are in the upper twilight zone for the most part. The angular rough shark can be in shallower water, but everybody else is in the upper twilight zone, which is kind of cool. The rough sharks are a poorly known group of deep water dogfishes. There are some basic published data on the angular rough shark from the Mediterranean Eastern Atlantic, but little information available for the other 4 species. Reproductive cycle is suggested to last around 1 year. Interesting. Yeah. Unfortunately for our Caribbean rough shark, there's not a lot of information. So, I think between all those sources, we're kind of seeing the same thing as far as like it lives in this part of the world. It sticks close to the seabed, and we just don't know much about it. So it's a great shark to study, especially since it's kind of cool that it does live near some pretty prominent shark research institutes. Like Bahamas does have the Bimini Shark Lab, which is world famous. Florida, is world famous for a lot of high quality shark research. There's at least 4 universities in Florida that do pretty high quality shark research. Moat Marine Lab. Actually, I'm drinking from a Moat Marine Lab mug. This is one of the most famous locations for shark research in general. So it's kind of cool to see a species that is very mysterious, rare. We don't really know a lot about it. But it is adjacent to some of the most important and productive shark research institutions in the world. So for any potential student who may want to study sharks and may want to pick a shark for a case study, or may want to dive into more of a species, the Caribbean rough shark is a really good pick. It's a beautiful little guy with a very unique biology, and it's really one of a kind as far as rough sharks go. Rough sharks themselves, out of the 500 plus sharks that exist in the world, these are 5 of the most unique and radical looking sharks ever. And the Caribbean rough shark is arguably maybe the most attractive in terms of the color palette, just the body plan. It's a really beautiful species. So I've really enjoyed learning more about it tonight, and learning more just about, just that biology of it's like a blimp. It's like an undersea blimp. It has this really extended liver to help contain or maintain neutral buoyancy as it patrols the seabed. So it's a really cool, it may be the only major fact we learned tonight. At least for me, it's one of the few major things we've learned tonight for this particular species, but it's still a huge takeaway because it's not a life strategy I ever considered before or seen before in sharks. So I really like the Oxynotus. It's a really cool group. So I just catching up on comments. Megalodon would literally put holes in boats. More shark info waiting to be discovered. Yes. So deepwater sharks, really cool group. I did not realize that the cat sharks and the dogfish, they made up, 85% of the deepwater fauna, and 21% are sharks we just don't really know. So I really love that idea. I think I did say recently I had that prediction of there's 1,000 sharks in the world. It's just my weird gut feeling prediction. It was really cool to read that paper to be it's not crazy. It's not a crazy thought. I really love seeing a paper saying that we don't know a lot of deepwater sharks. There's a lot to be discovered. So, but it's close to 11 over here, so I'm going to wrap up for tonight. But thank you guys so much for watching. It was really good seeing you guys, and it was a fun night as far as I really enjoyed just our little tangents and talking about Endless Ocean. That was a blast from the past. And thank you again, Roy, for Endless Oceans on the Switch. I'm really excited about that, so I will keep an eye out for it. But next week we're going to do the spade nose shark, and I will keep you guys posted on the fossil special. So I'm really excited. It's going to be our first fossil special ever, and 2024 is going to be just a really cool. Oh yeah, I just saw your comment, Roy. No worries. And just for the record, if anyone types caps, it's totally fine. I don't think anything of it, so no worries about that. But hope you guys have a really great week and a really great weekend, and I will see you for the spade nose shark next week. So, good night. Cheers, guys. Bye.